Welcome to this introduction to Illustrator. So Illustrator is part of Creative Suite. Creative Suite obviously houses lots of different pieces of software, for example, Photoshop, InDesign, After Effects. So Illustrator has really been designed for artists and designers to create vector work. So the image that you see on the screen here would be classed as a vector where it's block shapes. So Illustrator isn't for images, that's what we have Photoshop for. And what I'm going to show you today is how to create a Julian Opie response, so what we see on the screen here. So to start off with, we need to open one of the photographs that you've taken from around the college. So we go to File, and we go to New, and let's create a new document. So if we click Print here, we're going to set it up for print. As you can see, there's all different settings. So we've got mobile, web, film, illustrations, because you can prepare animations and things in Illustrator. It does allow you to do that. But we're just going to stick with print here. So click on print. You can see all the presets that are set up. We're just going to work A4. Now, the image that I'm going to be working with is portrait. If it is that you've got a landscape image, just make sure that you click here where it says orientation, change that to landscape. But like I said, I'm going to be working on portrait. Here, the artboards, this allows you to work on numerous different documents at the same time. So some of you, if you wanted to, you could add more than one artboard. But just to make it simple today, let's just keep it to one. This is if we're adding bleeds and everything for print. We're just going to leave that as normal, so just leave it at 0. And here you'll notice that the colour mode is set to CMYK. Now, for screen, I've mentioned this before, we set the image to RGB if it's for screen, but what we're going to do today, we're just going to set it up for print just in case we do decide to put these in a sketchbook. So CMYK, here you can see the pixels per inch, that's what the PPI means here. Make sure that you set that to 300, the higher the better, just in case you do decide to print this at a later date. So with that in mind, we'll create our document. So here's our A4 doc, and what we're going to do now is we're going to paste one of our photographs in. So you can go to File and Open, and just open your image, and what it will do is it will open it in a separate document here. So you'll see at the top here I've got my tabs. So all I need to do is click on this, okay, and then click Command and C. Now obviously if you're on a PC it's Control and C, but on a Mac it's Command and C to copy, and then Command and V to paste. Now what you might notice is that when your image opens, it might be really big on the screen, so you might end up seeing just a section like this. And what you need to do is just go to the corner of your image, make sure you hold your shift key down and just scale that to size. Now you'll notice that you'll have a little bit of the image hanging off here, can you see? And it's the same at the bottom really. That's because the actual shape of an A4 image is different to that of a photograph that's taken on the camera. They're slightly different. But in this case, it just means that we're not going to trace this bit here. Okay, so now we've got our image. What we need to do now is create a new layer. So in order to do that, we're just going to go over to our menu bar here. So you can see these are all our tools that we'll be using. Now the layers tool looks like two pieces of paper on top of one another. If for whatever reason this isn't here, just go to window at the top of the screen and then just make sure that you click layers, and then it'll come up. Okay. So we're going to click a new layer. So to create one, all we do is go to this little square down here. That creates a new layer. Similar to that in Photoshop, it's always better to do things on separate layers, just in case you need to make an adjustment, or if you make a mistake, it's always easier to go back and edit the layers separately. So here we've got layer 1, which is our image, and here we've got layer 2. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use the pen tool and we're going to start tracing this. So by the end of this tutorial, we'll have something that looks like this, where we've got sort of the outline, very similar to that of what Julian Opie does with his work. So let's go back to our image. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to the pen tool. So you'll see that there's different types of pen tools here. The one we're going to start with is the first pen tool. To get this subheadings out, all you do is click on your mouse and then the subheadings will come through. You'll notice that some of the tools have these little triangles in the bottom right hand corner. That's what that signifies. It means there are other tools embedded in that particular tool. So just make sure you go to the pen tool and click on that. And then we need to go down here and work on our colour palette. So you'll see that we've got two colour palettes. We've got here, which is the fill, and this, which is the stroke. So at the minute, we don't want any fill. All we want is a black outline. So to get rid of this, all you do is click on the fill, and you see where there's a red line that goes through. This signifies that the what you're picking is transparent. So we want a transparent. We don't want any fill at the minute. So we're just going to click that little square with a red line. And then we're going to do a stroke. So in this case, if you double click, you'll get your colour picker up. Now, you can do this in black. However, sometimes students really struggle to see where they've drawn and where they've not drawn. So some of you might want to pick sort of a brighter colour. We will change this later, so don't worry. But by picking a bright colour, we can see all the bits that we've drawn and the bits that we haven't drawn. So let's click on that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to zoom into the image, and to do that, just click Command or Control and plus, and that'll allow you to zoom in. So Command and minus is zoom out. You can use two fingers as well, just on your trackpad, to zoom in and out as well if you're on a Mac. So what we're going to do is we're going to click here to create what's called an anchor point. So you can see here, this is an anchor point. So I'm just going to move my cursor down here. I'm going to click again, and I'm going to create another anchor point here. And then over here, click another one. Now, I want to go back up here, and I want to draw another line here. So obviously I need to finish this path that I've drawn. And to do that, I just click V on my keyboard. So what V does is it's the shortcut to this, which is the selection tool. And what that does is it just says to Illustrator, I've finished drawing that line now. And then if I click on P, which is the shortcut for the pen tool again, I can then click to create another anchor point. So I've clicked there, move across, and click there. Again, I want to create a new line, so I'm going to click V on my keyboard, and then P again for the pen tool. You'll notice that you'll keep doing that VP. That's absolutely fine. So what you're going to do now is draw as much detail on this as you possibly can. Now, I'm just going to go up here, and I'm going to click again down here. Now, you can see that I've made a mistake. So what I need to do is I need to move this anchor point so it's in line with this white line here that you can see. Now, the arrow tool, so these are the selection tools. So you've got the selection tool that'll select all the path that you've drawn. And then this one selects the individual anchor points. So if you click on the white arrow, so that's shortcut A on your keyboard. If you then click on this and just move that down, it'll allow you to edit those individual anchor points. So if it is that you make a mistake, don't worry. You can just go back and tweak that if you need to. So what you need to do from now on is just draw as much detail onto your image as possible. So just remember VP. That's allowing you to start a new line. Now, some of you, in this image, you can see there's not a lot of curved lines, but there is one curved line here. So if I zoom in, now the pen tool, this particular pen tool, is designed for straight lines. But say, for instance, if you click, and then if I click here, and hold on my mouse, so if you just hold it down, you can create a curve. So just by holding the mouse down, you can create that curve, okay? And then here, just going to curve it that way, and then curve. It does take a bit of practice producing the curves, but again, if you make a mistake, you can go back and you can edit those anchor points. So now just take your time, put as much detail in as you can. If it is that you want to make any of these lines thicker, so it might be, for instance, if I draw this line going across, go to my pen tool, if I click there, can you see what happened then? If I go back, sometimes when you click on an anchor point, it will delete it. Now you see on the cursor, you can see it actually shows a minus. If that happens, if you just click slightly across from your anchor point, if I click there, So then all I'd have to do then is just go back to my direct selection tool, click, and you can adjust that. Now, at the minute, all my paths are all the same thickness. If it is that you want to change a path and make it thicker, if you just go to your selection tool, so this time I'm going to click on the black arrow, click on the line that you want to make thicker, and then if you click up here, you can just, where it says point, you can make it so it's slightly thicker. Now, it is nice to really change the thickness of some of the lines. You can see on the example that I've done here, some of the lines I have made slightly thicker, especially these vents here. Now, if it is that you're still struggling to see the outlines that you've produced here, I can see them, but again, if you are struggling to see, if you click Command and Y on your keyboard, it gives you the ability to look at the paths that you've created. So here you can see all the paths that I've drawn. The Command and Y is a great feature because if it is that there's any gaps between any lines and anchor points, it means that you can see them more clearly. So if you do have any issues, you can just go back into your direct selection tool and edit that. To get your image back, you just click Command and Y. So put as much detail in as you possibly can do. So you can see here, this is the kind of detail we're looking for. You might not want to put all the brickwork in. So you can see here, I've opted to put just a couple of bricks to add texture to this area of the design. So work on this, put in as much detail as possible. And then in the next tutorial, I'll show you how we add colour.